Space travel has always been that ultimate challenge. And I think we have a generation who's absorbed the idea of technological processes entirely earthbound and to do with making our everyday lives more easy or whatever, as opposed to the specialness and the extraordinary nature of a few select individuals pushing the boundaries of where the human race, the human species, has ever been.
What's the new frontier? Space. As my dad would say, yeah, the new frontier is not necessarily the Army and the Navy, it's the Air Force. You know, it's out there.
The humans in space and our future in space, I think, are important to us as a human race. In some sense, it's cultural. In some sense, it's built into our DNA to explore, to expand, to conquer the universe.
Right from the beginning, we've been explorers and adventurers, and humankind's impetus to break boundaries and look beyond where they sit right now, that's a very exciting thing that distinguishes us.
I'm hopeful that Interstellar will tap into people's rekindling interest in those kind of things.
Here we go.
Interstellar is a film that's set in a future where the world is essentially telling us our time is done here and we have to leave the nest and move outwards into the rest of the universe.
We must confront the reality that nothing in our solar system can help us.
I wanted to consider the idea of a generation that had grown up in a very, very different world, and for whom the prospect of space exploration wasn't a luxury or wasn't a theoretical thing, but a desperate, desperate necessity.
Now you need to tell me what your plan is to save the world.
Quiet now. Watch your shadows down the hallway, please. Thank you. Okay, let's roll it. Rolling. Rolling. And action.
To me, space travel, space exploration has always represented the ultimate frontier. It's at the absolute extremities of what human experience is, and it's all about trying to, in some way, define our place in the universe, what our existence means. So for a filmmaker, that opens up infinite set of possibilities in terms of taking a set of characters and putting them out at the very extremes of what human beings have ever done and can ever imagine doing.
Interstellar is the story of a journey into the outer reaches of the universe. But it's also the story of a family and a father. It's the story of how far a man is willing to go and how much sacrifice he's willing to make in order to save humanity.
No one handles the sheer mass and the scale and the scope of a world as well as Chris. I talked to Chris about trying to break down the script. The heartbeat lies in adventure and humanity and discovery and the unknown.
It's a very human story, tapping into the sort of relationships at the heart of the story. That's what I'm really excited for the audience to get a sense of, the great cast that we have.
You have no idea when you're coming back.
I'm coming back.
Matthew McConaughey is seeming so perfect for the part. He is so much the sort of laconic, almost cowboy, pilot-type presence, the sort of Chuck Yeager idea that we're really trying to get to from The Right Stuff.
Cooper, he's a man out of time. He's not supposed to be a farmer. He's not supposed to be grounded. He's supposed to be up there.
Love is the one thing that transcends time and space.
I thought about what it would be like to have to leave everyone you love behind, what it would be like to have to live a life where you live cut off, always telling yourself that you're doing it for the greater good. I was very moved by that.
I liked the idea of exploring a woman in need of a connection. My favorite part of any process is the feeling of an ensemble, is a collaboration, is working with the actors and creating something. I find that really fulfilling.
There's such a great ensemble feel to this cast.
I came in late enough that when I met with Chris, he had the headshots on the wall of who was there, and I got to see that, you know, it was McConaughey and Anne and Lithgow was on there, Michael Caine. Incredibly impressive wall of actors doing a lot of different size roles.
It's all in the casting. I mean, Chris knew what he was doing when he put these people together.
This is the mission we were trained for.
I've got kids, Professor.
Get out there and save them.
Can we do the retro thrusters on this one?
It's about human beings and the relationships between human beings. But for me, inevitably, if the film's called Interstellar and you're dealing with the vastness of the universe, it's going to have to be the biggest film you've done. It's going to have to be the most ambitious film you've done. And that takes a number of different forms.
Cut. Beautiful.
We're dealing with planets, space, black holes, and then we have the sort of more regular sets like the farmhouse.
The set of it where the farm has been built is just magnificently beautiful, very dramatic, very pretty.
We want an interior-exterior build. We need to grow 500 acres of corn. With Chris Films, he likes to be out there. He likes to be with the reality of a place.
He loves to work from reality. When we turn around and say, oh, a dust storm, you figured you were going to just look at an empty landscape and that they'd put it in later for us, so we would have to pretend. No.
Chris wants to always do as much as you can practical. I mean, if you can achieve it in camera, that's always the goal.
If you're shooting someplace that's cold, I find it helpful to feel the cold. If you're slogging through water that comes up to your mid-thigh, it's great not to be told that the water's going to be added later.
How would you recreate the biggest glacier in Europe in a studio? You wouldn't.
He takes us to these exotic locations and creates a planetary atmosphere. He's filling the screen with a real image that feels real because it is real.
We're building very, very realistic sets that can be completely 360 and contained. It can really put the audience into the shoes of the astronauts who are exploring these new worlds, new galaxies.
The sets that we shot on back in Los Angeles were pretty incredible. We actually built pretty much everything for real.
We have them on big gimbals so they can go vertically, so we can go 0G. Everything was on hydraulics, everything had movement.
You can't tell that this was made for a movie. You want it to look like it was made for real.
We wanted to try and create a much more real environment for the actors inside the spaceships rather than relying on green screens. We didn't use any green screens.
We were very interested in the way that perhaps visual effects had been created in the past before computers came along. Combining that with the power of modern digital technologies, the idea of creating space environments live on the stage. If you could create imagery which you could show on the set, actually make it part of the set, it gave it an instant reality.
Well, if there was ever a movie to use IMAX on, let's face it, go to space, use IMAX.
The camera department had to take a very experimental approach to the way we wanted to shoot the film with the IMAX cameras. We wanted to do a lot of handheld camera. We wanted to do a lot of camera mounts. Mounts on the exteriors of ships, really treating an IMAX camera like a GoPro camera.
We actually mounted on helmets, we mounted on spacesuits, we mounted on bodies. Think about the fact that NASA sent IMAX cameras up to space and they can film with that camera in very small spaces. By doing that, you create a very specific feeling, and we want to replicate that.
The mandate from the beginning, when I was brought onto the project, was to try to get the science right, but still get to a place where you had this massive, epic experience.
The initial impetus for the project had been to say, why not examine real possibilities? Where are we now? Where has the world got to in terms of its thinking about gravity being able to traverse dimensions, gravitational lensing, the effects of gravity and light around the black hole? Why not actually look at the real science there?
Luckily, we had Kip, and Kip is the foremost authority on all things gravitational.
Kip Thorne is a brilliant scientist, one of the world's foremost authorities on space-time, black holes, wormholes, and he's written extensively on these things.
The thing that makes this different from almost any other movie that's been made is that real science was woven into this film and into the story from the beginning, and woven in deeply.
The visual effects department under Paul Franklin and everybody at Double Negative, they took Kip's data and they created real visual representations.
What the algorithms gave us was extremely spectacular.
We found that there was an enormous amount of beauty within these things if you actually just went to the straight physics, to the science, to the mathematics.
Neither wormholes nor black holes have been depicted in any Hollywood movie in the way that they actually would appear. This is the first time that the depiction began with Einstein's general relativity equations from the outset.
What it is not science fiction, it's science fact.
We used to look up in the sky and wonder at our place in the stars. Now we just look down and worry about our place in the dirt.
I think we all just felt really lucky to be here. I mean, not only are we working on a Chris Nolan movie, but we're working on one of the more epic ones, and he's made some pretty epic ones.
How he puts it together, how he balances the scope, the unknown, the science fiction, with real humanity.
The emotional heart of what is an enormous and spectacular film really holds you as you watch it and sort of makes you emotionally invested in those characters and what's going on for them.
I would describe this as a family film, as a sci-fi film, as a drama, as a romance. I think it's the kind of movie that doesn't exclude anyone. And you go in and there's many areas it touches on.
I think it would be really thrilling if people got some sense from this film that these ideas are worth thinking about, you know, beyond the scope of just watching Interstellar.
Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light.
Murph, I love you. Forever.
Go for main engine start. T-minus 3, 2, 1.